morning. Today we're going to be working our way through a series of 8 different activities today. And so don't need to worry about the numbers. But our first one that we're going to be looking at is down near the bottom. It's titled Making Music with Glass. There are 2 questions that you'll need to answer upon the completion of this. So our task today, the materials have already been set up and the colors are just for fun. Each jar has a different amount in it. So jar number 8, for example, has 0. Jar number 7, you'll notice, is filled almost to the top and so forth. It goes down by about 2 ounces per jar until you get to the very last one. Jar number 1, which only has 2 ounces of water in there, colored water. And so taking our spoon, we want to hear the different sounds. So with nothing in it, for example, the full, so you can tell that the jar with nothing definitely is the loudest, or not loudest, but the highest pitch. And then, of course, we're looking at which one makes the lower sound, which one makes the highest sound. So you can compare those. And then, of course, if somebody wanted to, they could actually play a song with this. For example, see if I can play Happy Birthday for you. Oh, wait. So, kind of fun. Go ahead and take a look at your questions. You'll notice question number 8 says, describe how the amount of water affects the pitch in the sound. And number 9, if you were to change the container holding the water, what do you think would happen to the sound produced? In other words, if we were to use something other than these glass jars. Notice the directions. They do ask you to provide quality complete sentences. We're going to move on to our next station. And our next station here, we have this box. And the box has rubber bands around it. So you can see what that looks like. And so it's already been built for us. And so we're going to work on playing our rubber band box. And so this one, you'll notice, goes along with the rubber band guitar. And so the questions to answer for that one. Question 6, what do you notice about the rubber bands after they have been plucked? And number 7, how does the sound differ when you change the arrangement of the rubber bands on the box? So in other words, if I were to take, for example, this rubber band and place it down here, and I were to move then this one up here, does that then change the sound? our next station, this one is the one titled I Can See the Light. And so for this one, we're gonna have this item here. I've got a couple of solid items, and then I'm gonna go grab real quickly a flashlight. And so with this one, our directions talk about taking and putting a flashlight through our finger, for example. So there you can see what my finger looks like when I put a flashlight through it. Or here's a larger finger. So pretty cool. Interesting when it gets up to my fingernail versus the rest of that. And then of course another thing that they want is they want us to shine a flashlight through a glass container. So here's our glass container, and I'm gonna put the light through there. And so as I flash my light through there, one thing I notice is, do you see the light going on the items behind? Very cool. You can kind of set this behind. You can see that a little bit. And then, of course, we want to shine the light through an item that is solid. And so we've got this one here. So I shine it through that solid item, and you'll notice that you don't see the things lighting up behind. So for this lab station, we do have a couple of questions as well. Question 10, why do some light waves pass through objects and others don't? For example, when I put the light through the water versus the ball. And then the last question, how can light from the sun travel all the way from the sun to Earth? All right, our next station. Come all the way down here, and for this station, you have to listen. This station is the one about what's called a tuning fork. And so the questions you're going to answer says, the first one, how does the sound differ when using the different sizes? And number 5, explain why that sound is different. So I've got a piece of wood that I'm going to strike my items on, and I've got a very small tuning fork, I've got a very large tuning fork, and then I've got a medium-sized tuning fork. And so let's just hear the difference in some of those sounds. I'm going to use the wood to strike it on, so listen carefully. There's the small one. And the largest one.
Staff and students, please excuse this interruption, but at this time, could we kind of finish up what we got going, and we're going to send everybody to fourth period early.
Excuse Mr. Hodge here.
To report to fourth period, so we can make sure that we get our students to the right lunch. So once they get to fourth period, maybe hang on to them for just a few minutes, and we'll get on and announce that lunch is going to start. So at this time, could everybody please head to fourth period? Everybody head to fourth period. Thank you.
Okay, let's see if this one works. And then, of course, this one. All right, so we've had the chance to hear the sounds of some of those. Now we want to see what happens. One of the things that we want to do is we're going to hit it, and then we are going to place the end of our tuning fork onto the wood. So. very hard to hear, especially through here, but if you were in person here, you would have noticed that the vibration is intensified when it hits the wood, and it actually sounds louder. So the last one is we're actually going to place these into the water, and hopefully you guys can see what happens. So it actually moves the water, and you get little vibrations across the water. Okay, we're going to move on to our next station here. We've got some coat hangers, and this one, unfortunately, a little hard to do it without actually having the coat hanger, because you're being asked to actually place that coat hanger up to your ear like this. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what happens. So there's a plastic hanger and there is a metal hanger. And what's interesting is that when you take this string and you touch this string on the outside of your ear next to kind of your upper cheek area, and you hit this onto the counter or onto a table, the vibrations from the metal run up the string and you can actually hear it, which is really interesting. The metal one compared to the plastic one you hear very little. The plastic absorbs a lot of that vibration, whereas the metal intensifies it. And so you can definitely hear it much more with the metal hanger compared to the plastic hanger. But again, unfortunately, this is one where you have to put it up to your own ear to try that. So if you're watching this video from home and you want to try that from home, go for it. You do need to work your way through this question. Question number 2, how does the sound travel to your ear when you clank it against the table? In our case, we've been using the counter. And the next one is to describe the difference in sound between the two coat hangers and why do you think this occurred. So I mentioned that, so if you need to rewind it to get that, go for it. And then of course we've got our last station here, and this one is called dancing salt. And so we've got a piece of plastic that's been pulled tight, and then that plastic is over the top of that bowl. And so we want to see if we can make this salt dance. So we've got 2 ways of doing that. The first way is by taking this and pounding on it lightly, not doing it very hard, but you'll notice you can see that salt just jump up and down. And obviously the harder I tap on it, the higher the salt dances. So there's one way, and the other way had to do with using our voice. And so we use our voice to take a piece of paper and we make kind of a megaphone out of that piece of paper, and then we're actually going to use our voice to talk into it and amplify our voice. Hello. When I do this, the higher pitch actually causes the salt to move much more. See if I can try and get this so that it's videotaping right above it. See if I'm talented enough. So hopefully you were able to see that. I know it's not the best view, but it definitely dances around, and the higher pitch causes more dancing. So again, the very first question, they want to know what is causing the salt to move. So we're going to go ahead and stop there, and you're going to want to make sure that you go through each of these questions. Each question here is worth 2 points, and so this assignment is worth a total of 22 points. Again, make sure that you have answered your questions in complete quality sentences. Don't worry about the numbers. That just guided us through the classroom for what lab stations we would find these activities at. So thanks a lot.